They are no longer news-neutral reporters. They are becoming news makers and opinion dictators. Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Before we get into it, I want to make it clear this video is not about making judgments, questioning evidence, or having an opinion about the accusations of guilt. That is not my place. Guilt is in the purview of the courts. What I do seek are unbiased facts, the motives behind the actions, the relevance of the information, and the potential outcomes or consequences this might have on people and society. So my question is, what is the media's obsession with trying to cancel men? Johnny Depp, Andrew Tate, Jonah Hill, and now Russell Brand. I'll focus on the most recent example being Russell Brand, but this generally applies to all cases. There's a legal principle called the presumption of innocence, which is also considered a human right under the UN's Declaration of Human Rights, Article 11, which basically states that every person accused of a crime is considered innocent until proven guilty. If Russell Brand committed a crime defined and actionable by law, is brought before a fair court and jury and judged to be found guilty, then he must face the consequences. We, as a Western society, have agreed upon this process. However, because the media has now given itself the powers to accuse, trial, and punish alleged offenders, if Russell Brand is eventually found not guilty, he will forever suffer immense consequences. Emotionally damaged, financially damaged, his reputation damaged, and his family and loved ones caught in the damage as well. The rise of the internet caused substantial changes within most industries. For media, their traditional income sources, being newspapers and TV news, started to decline. So they had to pivot to an advertising income-based model, and this caused a change in journalism from who, what, when, where, how reporting to a clickbait, rage bait, and opinion-based reporting. The industry went from a noble, standards-based profession where journalists sought to report facts, investigate topics deeply, cross-reference sources to a high degree of certainty, and give the audience an unbiased, multi-angle view on a topic, to where we are today, where political narratives permeate almost all topics, and news agencies limiting their reporting to only the information that supports their biased views. Add to this, billionaires or large corporations own the more prominent news media channels and set internal guidelines on how they want the news delivered based on their agendas. Also, advertisers have realized their power and are telling the news agencies what they can and cannot report on, and how narratives must be crafted to ensure they retain their advertising dollars. And lastly, the rise of an alternative media in the form of podcasts, streaming platforms, and social media is pulling viewership away from large media conglomerates, reducing their ability to command significant advertising revenues and making them more sensationalist to keep viewers. The consequence is that these media conglomerates are turning up the dial in shock value to keep viewers' attention. They are no longer news-neutral reporters. They are becoming news makers and opinion dictators. As I mentioned at the beginning, my role is not to be a judge of guilt, but rather question the incentives, motives, and actions for how this case is unfolding. How are we and organizations immediately shutting him down, canceling him, terminating contracts without any actual proof and conviction of guilt? How can platforms take away his income while still profiting from the advertising revenue from his work? How are so many people overjoyed at Russell Brand's fall from grace without proof of the rigors of a court case or cross-examined evidence? Is it just pleasure derived from another person's misfortune? Is it so people can feel purified and less guilty of their own failing? Is it our tribal nature to groupthink by virtue signaling against Russell? Is it the belief that this is the only way alleged victims can get justice? Is it trying to destroy and silence everyone and anyone with opposing views by any means necessary? Because it seems people have tried to debate his opinions and views without success. So is the solution now Plan B, using personal attacks?
Disingenuous to claim that the biases that are exhibited on Fox News are any different from the biases exhibited on MSNBC. It's difficult to suggest that these corporations operate as anything other than mouthpieces for their affiliate owners in BlackRock and Vanguard. I've been on that MSNBC, mate. It was propagandist nutcrackery on there. I went on a show called Morning Joe. It was absurd the way they carried on.
Morning Joe.
Yes. Yeah, I don't know what it was. It wasn't morning. There was no one called Joe there. No one could concentrate. They didn't understand the basic tenets of journalism. No one was willing to stick up for genuine American heroes like Edward Snowden. No one was willing to talk about Julian Assange and what he's suffered trying to bring real journalism to the American people. And I think to sit within the castle of MSNBC throwing rocks at Fox News is ludicrous. Make MSNBC better. Make MSNBC great again.
We must not forget that there are often three truths in these situations: Party A, Party B, and the actual truth. Again, if Russell is proven guilty of a crime, he will suffer the consequences. However, if he has not committed any criminal acts, other than being outrageous, selfish, and insulting, then the destruction of his life to sell news stories, and so people can feel better about their shortcomings, and to relish in another person's downfall and misfortune, should not be considered acceptable nor honorable. And this is actually very troubling for society. The other troubling question is, why now? If Russell was still a socialist left supporter, would the media have created the storm or ignored his past destructive behaviors as they do for many high-profile people on the left? This is an open question. Please let me know what you think in the comments. Correct me if I'm wrong, but if CNN, MSNBC, and BBC were my only sources of news, I would have the impression that all men, and only men, can be perpetrators of abuse and violence, and that all women are victims no matter what they did. Do any of us, especially the viewers of these media sources, ever question how they benefit from these narratives? Just look at how Amber Heard was covered during the Depp defamation trial. Even though there is audio evidence of abuse, a history of past abusive relationships, and witnesses, she was still perceived as the victim. If we quickly compare the differences in coverage, allegations were made public against Russell Brand by media sources in a joint investigation. The media goes into a feeding frenzy against him, and immediately corporate brands, sponsors, and business partners cut ties, further destroying his image and creating a perception of guilt. On the other hand, Amber Heard was defeated in a civil court case, citing multiple significant infractions against Johnny Depp, and was still given roles in movies. The media creates these subversions of justice by writing hit pieces on men, hiding behind the word alleged. The word alleged in responsible and honorable journalism clarifies that an allegation has been made, but not yet tested in court. Neither party should be believed or disbelieved, because nobody is being held accountable to the standards of the court. However, in modern journalism, all sorts of speculations can be published, as long as they are prefixed with the word alleged. Commonly, and especially in the cases of accused men, the coverage is limited to the accuser's side of the story. The accuser is often kept anonymous, while the accused is publicly exposed in every possible way. Checks and balances are not held to the same rigor that old school journalists used and self-imposed, because news cycles are so much faster, and the more sensational it sounds, the more clicks it gets. Ultimately, they flood the news with so much bias and opinion that the accused cannot get a fair trial, with judges and jury members all influenced by these media blitzes. This code of conduct has no morals or ethics, and sometimes crosses the line to be deemed a legal offense. Through movements like Me Too, we are told to believe all women, that men are always the predators and oppressors, that women are always the victims and play no part in the abuse, and that it's only men who need re-education training to improve their conduct and behavior. The outcome is that generations of women are being taught to fear men, and that men are naturally inclined to oppress, attack, or degrade women. To be clear, yes, there is a percentage of men who are criminals, who cross the line, who are selfish or abusive, and who are evil and bad people. However, the overwhelming majority of men are protectors, good fathers, sons and brothers. And these men do their best to respect and care for women. And we shouldn't forget that women are just as capable of wrongful behavior and criminal acts. But the media either limits its coverage or completely ignores it, further fueling the perception that only men can be at fault. People make mistakes. And I think sometimes we forget that Hollywood celebrities, politicians, business leaders, and people of influence are humans, just like you and me. We are all imperfect. Many of us have done stupid, but not criminal things in the past, and would probably do things very differently now if given the chance. This is an essential aspect of the growth process. Being fearful of failure, making mistakes, learning how to improve, and doing better the next time. This is how we develop and grow, through the process of trial and error. If we don't forgive, allow for redemption, and recognize that who a person was 10 years ago can be very different from who they are today, it will lead to a very fearful society, with people who are risk-averse, stagnant in their growth, and unwilling to share their opinions and beliefs, ultimately falling short of fulfilling their full potential and ability to contribute in pushing society forward. There have been many cases where high-profile people have been attacked for some careless tweet they wrote and forgot about years ago. Of course, you should be able to question them about it, but if they say, no, I've changed my thinking on this is what I believe now, then that should be the end of the conversation. Because people change for the better, and that should be encouraged. Now, if criminal acts have taken place, they need to be addressed in the courts, and penalties should be given when guilty. But I do believe, in most cases, people should be allowed a redemption arc, if they truly desire and work for it. We don't need to ruin people's lives and those of their children, family, and loved ones and tarnish their name forever for a harmless comment, belief, or opinion shared years ago, which no longer reflects who they are today. Not everything in this world has to be tit for tat, or an opportunity for a mob of virtue signalers to preach their views, feel superior and purified of their own failings. Life is too short to dwell on the past. The focus should be on the present, how people conduct themselves now, and in the future, in people's potential to improve and learn from their mistakes. I want to conclude with a few final observations. Number one, news agencies are profiting from amplifying news stories. Under a digital advertising model, there are incentives to generate articles and headlines that bait people and stimulate emotional responses, rage, and anger. And let's be honest, men are an easy target for the media because of the modern bias that men are generally guilty. The lesson, question the source of news you are getting. What are their motives, incentives, and interests? As they say, follow the money. Number two, accusations are often from incidents that happened in the past, yet are treated as recent. Why now is the first question we should ask when these incidents happened such a long time ago. Is the accuser suddenly stronger mentally to face their abuser? Or is there a revenge narrative or monetary incentive at play? Or are the accusers just pawns in an incentivized third party? Number three, we need to have a clear understanding in the distinction between what is morally and ethically wrong and what is a criminal act. If you haven't watched my last video, I recommend you go watch it. But essentially I discussed the issue of women filming themselves at the gym, wearing very minimal clothing, and calling men predators if they look their way. The issue is that a man glancing at a half-naked woman at the gym is not criminal. Yet, when women platform these men on social media, they call them sexual predators, which is a criminal offense. Another example is women engaging in sexual acts with men whom they know have a reputation as a bad boy. These men have women throwing themselves at them, no matter what is said or known about them, because they are wealthy, famous, or powerful.
I've got to tell you something. I came across Russell Brand in the 90s. I think we were in China White or something. I was with my girlfriends. And he was horrid. He was absolutely
So many
horrid,
women say that.
lechy, whatever. But do you know what, Andrew? What really shocked me is the amount of women chucking themselves at him, literally throwing themselves at him. So whatever's said and done, he has repented. He has written books about it and he has repented. And he is now living a very clean, decent life. I know some of his family. And he really, what more do we want in Britain? We're baying for blood for something that happened. Gosh, I don't want you to hold a mirror up to the things that I did in my teens or my 20s.
The issue is that women need to have some level of accountability. If you decide to be one of these women, don't be surprised if he treats you like shit and disrespects you. We can question if his behavior is morally or ethically correct, depending on one's belief system. But it's not criminal for two adults to engage in consensual sexual activities. If you regret it or are unhappy about it, it's unfortunate. But it's not his fault, nor an opportunity for you to take him down because you didn't get the outcome you desired. Lastly, number four, we live under a system of law with rigorous checks and balances. This is deliberate so that both the accused and accuser get a fair chance to present their evidence and have that evidence fairly assessed. All cases of suspected criminal activity should be reported to the police immediately, because years and decades later make it virtually impossible to provide fairness and ensure that all the evidence is presented. That's it from me on this video. I would love to hear from you. What do you think about the media's obsession with trying to cancel men? If you like the work that I do, please give this video a big thumbs up. It really helps the algorithm get it out to more people. And if you want to watch another one, I recommend this one about respect between men and women. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.